could be.
True, how would you feel?
Words cannot describe.
No,
my
It
men's
definitely
pain,
hurts
so-
way more than me because
It does.
I only care about Zavala. But
See, nobody
does this
cares
hurt
about
you,
Zavala.
CJ?
That's
Looking at
not-
this?
Oh,
Look at there.
okay, listen, we can't relive this.
So you take all this angst, you channel it down the barrel of your gun, you set out down that path to revenge. Let me introduce you to the Barons. These are some bad guys. This is Aldrin's collection of crime bosses. Each of them represents a separate hunt that you'll embark on. They answer only to Aldrin, the Prince of the Reef, and each of them represents their own hunt. Each of them has their own strengths and their own fighting styles. So on the hunt for each of these Barons, you're going to find yourself with these really interesting combat scenarios. Whether it's a vehicular engagement, or you can see the Mad Bomber right there, or there's a sniper duel. So the Tangled Shore is this lawless frontier that I've mentioned. That's the setting of the story campaign.
And there's the moment that we saw at E3. It's a
Yep.
painful memory.
Claims his weapon for himself.
It is not good. But if indeed this holds true, talk to us just a little bit about, the stuff that we are going to experience. You mentioned the Barons and the new enemy factions and stuff like that, and the Tangled Shore and the Dreaming City.
Yep.
What else can fans expect to see with Forsaken coming as
Well,
DLC?
we have a brand new activity, not a Crucible mode, but a brand new activity that we call Gambit. It blends PvE and PvP, so it's competitive and cooperative. They're playing it at Gamescom. They played it at E3. Our community played it at Guardian Con earlier in the summer.
James Duggan and I got a chance to play at E3. Both
Very
very
good.
much enjoyed it.
yeah, I had a very good time. I think it's the kind of innovation that I like to see. It is a space where I feel like players that are into PvE can still succeed, but players who really like to have their glorious PvP moment can kind of go to the other side of the portal. So tell us about the iteration coming up with this mode, how you got to this unique space.
Yeah, we wanted to create an arena that brought all of the best aspects of the Destiny player experience together. So obviously you're destroying your enemies, you're taking on the minions of the darkness, and you're collecting those motes. What you just saw there was the bank popped up in the middle, and you're banking these motes. So these triangular units of light here that are spilling out in the battlefield. You got to pick those up. You got to collect those things. And when you bank them, you can see these score meters filling up. So each team has the potential marked in white. And when you bank those motes, it fills in your color. When you bank certain amounts of motes, you can actually send these enemies to the other side to shut down their bank and to block that team, giving them an immediate threat that they have to confront and dispatch. That's where the raiders on your team are going to come in handy because they know how to handle themselves around a boss. So you bank your motes, you bank enough motes, this portal opens up. And that's where the guy on your team, the player on your team that's best in the Crucible, invades.
The PvP guys.
The PvP
That's where we reign
players.
supreme.
It's interesting that you pointed to yourself when you said that,
Well,
CJ.
I mean, listen, Doug, and
fair
I
enough.
don't want to be
No,
too
you're playing on a
1v1,
controller on PC. It's all good.
It's okay. We'll solve this after the show.
So the Invader has a buff. The Invader has an overshield, and they get to go over to the other team and confront them directly. So I think this is going to be some really great fusion for our community. If you're used to playing strikes or raids or cooperative activities, and you have that one person on your friends list who loves the Crucible, you can say, you're going to come over, you're going to come into this arena with us.
Yeah.
We need a player like you to go in and be the invader every time. And then when you get invaded yourself, the people who are used to dealing with other Guardians can say, everybody go run and hide. I got this
Yeah,
one.
exactly. And I think that's one of the things that this mode does very well. We were just joking a little bit there, but PvP, PvE, there's a lot of things that Destiny as a game is trying to do. I think this mode does a really good job. We're actually looking at some of the footage from a new map that is just displayed here right now.
One of 4.
And this was really well done. So 4 maps is going to be in total at launch. Can you talk about how this will be deployed, or is there specific areas that you're focusing on with those maps?
Gambit is available on day 1. So this is not a scenario where sometimes the Crucible only comes available once you've done certain things or leveled up to a certain degree. We want people to jump in and be able to enjoy Gambit as soon as they want to. That's a recurring theme in Forsaken, much more freedom of choice, much more player agency to play the way you want, configure your Guardian the way you want, make sure that your fighting style unfolds the way you want. You're going to see some of the more powerful weapons that you've enjoyed, like sniper rifles or shotguns, factoring into the combat a lot more often.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I mean, that was one of the things that Doug and I were talking about. There's been a huge change to the weapon meta. You guys had a PvP update a little while ago.
Yeah.
These are basically on display in the Forsaken demo here.
Yep.
How did you guys come about doing that, and what was the change you decided to make when it came to switching those things?
We're always looking at the game and the way it's played. We have tons of data for, how people are getting their kills, what sorts of weapons they're using. At the same time, there's always a conversation with our community, whether we're reading forums or inviting them to come talk to us in our studio. And one of the things we wanted to do was we wanted to take some of these weapons like shotguns or sniper rifles and make them a little bit more available to people more often. That changes up the way combat unfolds between players, so you also need to take some of the other weapons, some of the mainstays like auto rifles, or and make sure that they're also lethal enough to compete. So I think you're going to find all up a very different sandbox in the second year of Destiny that begins with Forsaken, and that's also going to mean that when these weapons are dropping, they have random perk sets, they have new modifiers that actually change the weapon in a way that gives it a new tactical gain. We've used weapon modifiers to lock in a damage type, an elemental damage type, and now it'll actually change the way they perform in a fight. So you have many, many more options you can use to make sure that your Guardian is really an extension of your personality and your fighting style.
So you mentioned random rolls, you mentioned the weapon slot variety, things like incentivization, vault space, potentially maybe even kiosks in the future.
Yeah.
These were things that existed in some capacity in Destiny 1, and I think in Destiny 2 there was probably an amount of experimentation, but they're being re-implemented into Destiny 2. So is that you as a developer saying, we recognize this is what the community wants and these things might be here to stay?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every time we update Destiny, we update it with what we feel the community wants and needs the most for the game to be what it is that they crave at that moment. With Forsaken, we're looking at really reinforcing the things that make Destiny a hobby. We're really excited about this new story we're telling. The darker themes, sort of the Western homage of a hunt for lawlessness across this new frontier. But once that story concludes, and once your path to revenge is met with its triumphant end, the game then turns into a place where you can go and visit with your friends or explore your hobby or make sure that your Guardian reaches your maximum potential. The collection system, the triumph system, these are all some really interesting things that are about to come online for all players in the second year of Destiny. And your collections is an opportunity for you to sort of look across your riches, like a trophy system that's right there in game. Here are all the guns I have. And then I have call outs to let me know the guns I don't have a certain path that leads to them. Go play certain activities, go complete certain types of accolades. You're being able to collect story elements and have a library of lore that you can read right there in the game. You're going to have titles and things that you can display so that people can look at your character and really understand what about the Destiny player experience is most important to you.
And I think that's the thing when you look at how people play the game from PvE to PvP. You guys have pretty big task of trying to satiate both things at the same time. So I think this way with collections, that's something I feel like that was missing a little bit with Destiny 2, and I'm really excited to see that stuff come forward.
You mentioned guns, and the Tools of the Trade trailer was a big hit in my immediate area of the office. One of our producers, Brian Malkowitz, watched it maybe 15 times, I'm not sure, in a row. But he's doing work now, so it's okay. So tell me, what are some of your favorite exotics that are being introduced in Forsaken, and things that you're really excited about for the community to get their hands on?
Well, I think the trailer did a great job of not just showing you cool weapons, but to also call out the very specific perks. So whether it's like the new bow archetype that lets you actually see through walls to see around corners, I think that's going to be fascinating. The fact that we're introducing a new archetype of weapon all up in Forsaken. We've had hunters behaving like archers, but now every character in Destiny that wants to play that way can take these things on. This one right here, sliding to block a projectile, looks like the type of thing that characters are just going to spam over and over and over again, but it's an ability that you earn, it recharges, you have to have a good sense of timing and rhythm for that. Here's the bow that I was talking about, explosive damage.
The double dodge.
The double dodge hunter is going to be a source of numerous angry tweets.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
I'm
like,
right
please,
there.
Please nerf these bastards.
That's the one.
A lot of people feel malfeasance is a call out to Thorn, but Destiny has a good, rich tradition of exotic hand cannons that are very special in their own right. And yeah, the projectile sword. Come on.
So let me ask you. This is what we would call historically a larger expansion for Destiny, though I understand the annual pass and seasons that distinction between kind of smaller like Dark Below versus Taken King size expansion is somewhat disappearing. So what does the future of Destiny hold in terms of its post-launch content?
Yeah, well, we're starting with Forsaken. We see this as an important transformative moment for Destiny all up. Like, we've talked about a lot of the things that we're adding to the player experience to give you, the agency, the legacy, define your heritage as a player. We're telling a huge story with 2 different destinations to explore, which makes this the biggest and most comprehensive expansion that we've ever released to Destiny. Really stands on its own as its own game, as its own experience. Even if you've never played Destiny, we have a character boost so that you can jump in on day one, you can join the community, and you'll be ready to fight. Beyond that, we have a number of things that we're doing to make Destiny prolong as that hobby, that place that you go to enjoy different challenges for different reasons. The Dreaming City, the end game destination, is going to have a bunch of interesting mysteries and puzzles. Obviously, the raid goes live after we launch the game.
Yep.
The Dreaming City will host that raid, but the Dreaming City itself will have different things to do and different ways to play week over week. Beyond that, there are seasonal updates. So from season to season, there's new gear to earn, there's special events like Iron Banner that recur over and over again, there are seasonal limited time events that come and go, like Solstice of Heroes, or some of the other events that you remember from Destiny past that may come back in new and exciting ways.
A lot of new content coming for Destiny 2 and Forsaken. It's a very exciting time. I'm certainly looking forward to jumping back in. CJ, Deej, thank you so much for talking shop here at Gamescom 2018. There's so much more Gamescom on the way here at IGN Live right after this, so don't go anywhere.